Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Girly Games Good. Things have been a lot different on my channel lately and I really wanted to talk about why. So I posted a video where I went through the layout that I came up with for Link's house. And in that video, I did discuss a little bit what caused me to stop making videos, but I didn't really go into what it was specifically about Tears of the Kingdom that made me not want to make Tears of the Kingdom content. Because in that video, I kind of talked about how, personal things got in the way of me making videos, and that is true, but it was that combined with the fact that I honestly lost interest in this game. I got burnt out in this game, and I kind of wanted to talk about why. And I think at the time, I really still wanted to keep an open mind because I hadn't played through the whole game yet. Am I on the Great Plateau? Yeah, I am. It's the Temple of Time. I haven't been here in this game yet. I hadn't played the game fully yet, so I couldn't say for sure, but it didn't click with me at first. And I really wanted to keep an open mind, but today I kind of wanted to do more of an informal video where I just played the game a little bit and just talk about what parts of Tears of the Kingdom made me kind of dislike it in certain parts. I will say straight up, this is going to be more of a negative video. And I think that's just because up until now on my channel, I've been trying to be relatively positive about the game because again, I was trying to, not judge a book by its cover. I wanted to give it a fair shot. I wanted to like this game, and I do like parts of this game, but there's a lot of this game that I don't like that much, and I have decided that at least as of now, this is probably my least favorite Zelda game. Now, when I say that, all Zelda games are good. I have not played a bad Zelda game, so even saying it's my least favorite Zelda game, I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm not saying that I don't like it. I'm just saying that there's a lot of parts to it that I tried to ignore at first, but that have increasingly become more annoying. A main part that bothers me about this game is it's a lot of things that sound good on paper. They sound like good ideas, but then in practice, they're just annoying and tedious. I would just keep that sentiment in mind because I feel like throughout my opinions on this game, that's a running theme. A lot of things where it's kind of like, did anyone play this game before they released it? Because there's so many things where small tweaks could have made them a lot better. Like it could have made a lot of parts of this game not as annoying and tedious as they ended up being. Let's see what this is. Like I said, I haven't been here yet in this game, so probably nothing good. Hell yeah, a royal shield. That's actually surprising. One little freebie here is the rewards in this game are atrocious. They're honestly worse than Breath of the Wild, I feel like. I don't know if that's just me or just the parts that I've played so far, but I feel like chests are almost never worth my time. They usually don't really have anything in them that are worth it. So that's just a little bonus. But anyway, yeah, this is gonna be like a little bit of a rant. I wanna say again, I'm not trying to say that there's no good parts of this game. It's just that I wanna talk about the negative parts. One of the reasons why I stopped playing as well was that at the time that I was playing it was like right after the game came out, and a lot of people still really liked this game. And it was still, a lot of people were praising it. All I heard was positives, the 10 out of 10s, this game's amazing, this is the best game I've ever played, this is the best Zelda game I've ever played. That was like all I was hearing at the time. So when I was experiencing things that I wasn't having fun with, it was kind of hard because I felt like nobody was agreeing with me. And that's kind of how I felt in Breath of the Wild too, except for a lot of the reasons why I personally don't click with Breath of the Wild come down to just literally personal preference. I can objectively acknowledge that that game is a really good game. It was really important for the Zelda series, and even though I kind of tend to like the older style better, that doesn't mean that I don't like Breath of the Wild. In fact, playing Tears of the Kingdom kind of gave me a more of an appreciation for Breath of the Wild, which is kind of weird. Let's go to the Shrine of Resurrection. Is that still here? I'm just kind of curious. I would say one of the first problems that I had with this game was something that I kind of did to myself, and that is that I played Breath of the Wild right before I played Tears of the Kingdom. So I kind of didn't know if that would have been a mistake because obviously we did know, sorry Cricket, that they would reuse the map, right? But I was still optimistic that they could have changed enough and like added enough that it wouldn't feel like you were still playing the same game. And so I started my YouTube channel a little bit before Tears of the Kingdom came out, and I played Breath of the Wild as my first playthrough on this channel right before Tears of the Kingdom came out, leading up to Tears of the Kingdom releasing. And honestly, that was a big issue. This is not an issue with the, well, I mean, it is an issue with the game in that they didn't change enough from Breath of the Wild, in my opinion, to make this game feel completely new. However, this was something that contributed to me feeling burnt out on the game sooner than I probably normally would have. And again, it's just because I had just played this game. So, was the Shrine of Resurrection, wasn't it like right here? Because didn't you go down this path towards the Temple of Time? Did they block it or something? Oh wait, it's right here, sorry. Playing Breath of the Wild right before this game was just not a good move. I wasn't thinking about it. I thought that they would change enough that it wouldn't matter, but it mattered. I think that the problem was just that this game is too similar to Breath of the Wild, and it's not just, and again, I'll touch on this more later, but it's not just the world. It's not just the fact that I've played this map before. To be honest with you, I feel like that's almost the least of my concern. I do feel like they changed things on the surface, kind of. If nothing else, even if they didn't change that much, I at least wanted to, like, I found myself wanting to go to different areas just for the sake of seeing if anything changed. And even though a lot of times nothing did or nothing substantial did, it was still fun to kind of, you know, think about, oh, well, what could have changed? Oh shit, there's a Yiga clan hideout down here. I was still incentivized to go ahead and explore the map simply because I was looking to see if anything changed, even though nothing ended up really changing significantly, in my opinion, but I still wanted to see if anything changed. So I don't think that was the main issue. For me, I think it was that so many parts of Breath of the Wild were so similar to Tears of the Kingdom that it got old way too fast. It kind of got old already in Breath of the Wild, certain parts, but it got even more old when I was just redoing it right after, you know? So besides the map being the same as Breath of the Wild, there's just so many similarities that a lot of times it just felt like they put a new coat of paint on Breath of the Wild rather than actually just like starting fresh with a new game. So for instance, the shrines, it was so similar. Like, you are in the overworld, you find a shrine that's clearly a shrine. It's not really part of the world. It's kind of like a separate area. You activate the shrine, and then you go down inside of the shrine, and then you come out into this area, which is different from Breath of the Wild, but also still very similar. You know, they're all the same theme as each other, which is the same as Breath of the Wild. And you get to the end, and I swear they play like the same sound effects and everything. You get a spirit orb, essentially. I forget what they're called in this game, but Light of Blessing, but it's like literally just a spirit orb. You trade 4 of them for a heart piece or stamina wheel upgrade. It's just so repetitive. It's like we've already done this. And yes, the shrines are different. Yes, the theme that they use in this game for shrines is different. But that doesn't change the fact that it's just so similar that, especially after just playing Breath of the Wild, you know, or if you were someone who just put a lot of time and a lot of hours into Breath of the Wild, which a lot of people did, it just felt so samey so fast. And that was something that had already started feeling kind of samey to me in Breath of the Wild. And then you add on top of it that Tears of the Kingdom did like the same thing. Dungeons in this game were definitely better than in Breath of the Wild, in my opinion. So they were different thematically, which I think was really important. I think that was really cool. However, it felt a little bit cheap. So for instance, the Rito one was on a pirate ship, and that was really sick. I mean, that whole sequence getting up to there was so cool. Seeing that it was a freaking pirate ship was awesome. Like, that was so sick. But when you actually got into the dungeon, you realized that it was the same thing as Breath of the Wild. I mean, seriously, you would go to a town, you would do a lead up, and yes, the lead ups were better. I liked all the lead ups, but again, it's just very samey. You would do a lead up, you would get to the dungeon. Yes, the dungeon was better. Yes, the dungeon was more thematically different. Yes, all of those things. But again, you had a very similar thing. Okay, you have to activate these 4 terminals or whatever. Every single dungeon in this game followed the same exact thing that every single dungeon in Breath of the Wild followed with, finding the different terminals. They were all pretty much independent puzzles of each other. So what I mean by that is, like, in old Zelda games, it would feel like a cohesive dungeon. You would not just do one puzzle and then move on to another completely separate puzzle. You would do a puzzle, and then that puzzle might open a door for you to be able to do your next puzzle or something like that. They were interconnected, and it felt like, okay, like I'm actually in a dungeon where all of the rooms are interconnected, and it was cool. And I just don't get that feeling. Like, I don't get the same feeling with Tears of the Kingdom. They were all just separate puzzles, and again, the same thing as Breath of the Wild. Then, same as Breath of the Wild, you get a ability from each area of the map. They were sage abilities in this game. I think they were like champion abilities in the last game, but same thing. All the champion abilities, in my opinion, are worse. But regardless, it was still the same process. Then after getting all of the abilities, you can explore the world more, where you can find random memories. You can find them in any order. If that sounds familiar, it's because that's the same exact way that Breath of the Wild did the story, except it made a lot more sense in that game because Link had amnesia. So it made sense that you were, trying to figure out what happened, and you knew the ending to that game. You just didn't know how they got there. You knew that they lost, but you didn't know why they lost, like what exactly led them to that moment. You don't know how Link got into the Shrine of Resurrection. You kind of know like a general outline of what happened, but you can't fill in the details. And the reason you can't is because Link literally doesn't remember. So Link is remembering the story as you get each memory. Each memory could be done in any order, and each one didn't really depend on another. They weren't in any sort of linear order, so it really didn't matter when you got them. This game did the same thing, except for this game was not built. It shouldn't have been built like that. This game followed that same process because that's what Breath of the Wild did, and for some reason they were hell-bent on doing every single thing the exact same as Breath of the Wild. Except for, again, it just doesn't work when you do it in a linear way. You're trying to incentivize people to explore, but you're also telling them that, hey, this geoglyph is number 5, and so is this another? Yeah. You find geoglyph number 5 in the wild, and so you basically are told you can either watch this memory and completely spoil, something that happens later in the game, or you can just pass by it and then have to come back later, which is an awful feeling, by the way, having to pass by something that you found that you want to know about simply because of how the game is like structured. Like, that sucks. That's an awful feeling. But again, it's just the same as Breath of the Wild. Starts to feel very samey when you're doing the same things. You explore the world, you find towers. In these towers, they expand your map. Same as Breath of the Wild. I shit you not. It's the same. Koroks. Yes, there are new Korok puzzles, but you're still doing the same thing. You are still finding Koroks randomly throughout the world, and you still go to Hetsu, and he increases your inventory. But yeah, it's just all very samey. The final boss battle, which I thought was really good in Tears of the Kingdom. I actually really liked it a lot. Probably one of my favorite parts of the entire game was the ending and the final boss battle. In my opinion, it was much better than in Breath of the Wild. However, it was very similar. I mean, you go in, you do a fight that's hard, and then you have a fight at the end that's much more cinematic, and it's not hard, and it's really just meant to be, just a cinematic thing. Again, it's not that bad because yes, it's different, but it's like there's only so many times I can forgive you doing the same exact thing with a different coat of paint. You know what I mean? Especially when the only thing that we've had to do in the past 6 years that you've been developing this game, the same amount of time, if not longer, than you developed this entire fucking world and the entirety of the last game. The only thing we've had to do is literally replay Breath of the Wild. And then so many things were so similar to Breath of the Wild. It was just not well thought out. In my opinion, they should have completely flushed their brains of Breath of the Wild. Started with this world, that's completely fine, but they shouldn't have just done the same things. They were like, okay, well, we have to do shrines, but instead of like, for instance, having mini shrines that you could just find, like a mini dungeon, you could just go into a cave and find a mini dungeon. Or you could potentially just find it just in as part of the world or something like that. Instead of doing stuff like that, they just did the same thing they did in Breath of the Wild, where they're just completely separate from the world. They're not really integrated at all. And they kind of are, they're not bad. They're not bad. I'll say the shrines in this game are better than Breath of the Wild. But again, it's just like when the structure is the exact same, even though you're changing things, it just feels very samey and you get tired of it, you know? I mean, again, all we've had to do for the past 6 years is replay Breath of the Wild, and then you guys are doing like all of the same things you already did in that game, which we've already been playing for the past 6 years. And assuming that this, you know, it takes them at least 6 years to put out another 3D Zelda game, that means we're going to have spent 12 years essentially doing the same shit, which is really, really shitty and frustrating. Next point I want to talk about is kind of related to my last one. And that's just basically that a lot of this game felt lazy, and that's what really bothered me. Again, especially given the development time. If they took a year or two after Breath of the Wild and put this game out as a DLC, I would not be upset. If they, for instance, just didn't have the depths and didn't go like so hard on just copy paste areas that kind of suck anyway, and they just did the core ideas, added a new story, and just did a really sick $30, $40, I don't care, DLC a couple years after the game came out, Breath of the Wild came out, I would have been much, much, much more forgiving with a lot of things that they did. But given how much time they took to make this game, it's much harder to forgive what they did with that time. For instance, Zelda leaves at the beginning of the game, as she did in the last game, and then there's this whole storyline. You know, I'm not going to necessarily go into the entire story in this video, but eventually she, you know, Link saves her, and there's a final cutscene where everything's coming together, and, you know, she's restored back from being a dragon and everything, and it's a nice scene. Okay, here's the thing. Link has zero emotions. Literally none. It took me out of it so hard. Zelda's going through like the most emotional, horrible thing in her entire life. I mean, at this point, well, she had gone through a horrible thing. At this point, now she's waking up, and, you know, this is the most relief she's probably felt in forever. And Link is just staring at her with the blankest fucking slate that I've ever seen. I understand that Link doesn't talk, but you're telling me you guys couldn't program like a nice little smile? You couldn't program like any sort of fucking emotion in him? I'm sorry, but like he literally has more emotion when he's asking a stable owner what prize he gets from his fucking pony points. Do you know what I'm talking about? There's an animation when you go to a stable and you turn in your pony points for like items and gear and stuff, like prizes, and Link does like a cute little like smile, and that's straight up more emotion than he shows Zelda going through one of the most relief-filled moments of her entire life. It's just, it takes me out of it. And again, like, I'm not sure if that was laziness. I'm not sure if that was just them not really knowing how to tell a story properly. I don't know what it was, but stuff like that, it's like, come on. That wouldn't have been hard. That really wouldn't have been hard. It wouldn't have taken up much development time at all. In other Zelda games, Link doesn't talk, but he has emotions. Think about Link from Wind Waker. Honestly, think about him from any other game. Think about him from Skyward Sword. Like the little faces that he makes when he's kind of blushing sometimes when Zelda's talking to him in Skyward Sword. Stuff like that, it conveys so much emotion. It conveys so much that makes you understand what Link's going through, and it makes the story make more sense because he is actually a person and not a robot. It's really hard to take the story seriously when Zelda is like acting her fucking heart out and Link is just fucking sitting there, acting like he doesn't even know what's going on. Letting NPCs not have any change in dialogue once the player and Link, you know, find out what's going on with Zelda is just, again, it just feels lazy because, like, come on, you guys couldn't have come up with a way to do this, dialogue options perhaps, or at some point when Link officially figures out that, you know, Zelda isn't actually Zelda, there's just this fake puppet Zelda going around causing havoc, Link doesn't tell anyone. Even after Link sees the memories and knows for a fact that this is not Zelda, he will still just stare people in the face while they're like, huh, what's Zelda doing here? Why is she doing that bad thing? This is weird. And like, you have to go through the entire story like you don't know that that's not Zelda. And it's like, come on, dude. First of all, I knew that wasn't Zelda even before I saw the memories, because it's obvious that she's not going to just come in here and fuck shit up. They have like no faith in her. But either way, we already found out in memories that that's for sure not Zelda. So why is Link just not saying anything? Like, that just feels bad. It just doesn't feel good. It feels like they couldn't just do something to make it so, you know, there was some sort of something where once you found the memories that explained what happened with Zelda, that the NPCs would change their dialogue. That would only take you recording some extra dialogue, or, you know, a lot of it's not even spoken. A lot of it's just, you know, text. It would not have been that hard. Having the same exact cutscene every single temple is just fucking lazy. That is the most unforgivable one, in my opinion. It's the same damn cutscene. A lot of times the dialogue is even the same when you go to the 4 different areas. It's just insane. I'm gonna go do this, actually. But yeah, having the same exact cutscene at the end of every single dungeon, which typically at the end of a dungeon you would expect some sort of, you know, good cutscene where it furthered the story. Even in Breath of the Wild, which was not super story heavy or anything, at the end of each dungeon, the champions would kind of complete the champion's story in a way. And each one was completely different from each other because they were focused on the characters of the champions, rather than them just telling you the same exact cutscene that the other champions already told you. Next thing, especially now that I'm coming up to these rocks, this game is maybe one of the most tedious games that I've ever played in my life. Okay, those were not the bad rocks, but it doesn't negate my point. I feel like when I'm playing this game that I am constantly battling with the game to have a good time. So many things are just so weirdly tedious. The way that you use the champion abilities is just annoying. You have to chase them around when they're all on your screen at once. Not only does it literally drive me insane, because I hate this. Like, I hate that they're all here. I hate that depending on what's going on, you can barely see what the fuck's going on. I hate that they're all just here. I hate it. I just want to explore. And then when you run away fast or whatever, they do that and then they come back. Oh my God, that drives me fucking insane. Like, I don't know why. It just drives me crazy. Okay, I have to get rid of them. I can't. Usually the only one I leave out is Tulin because of his wind power, but I can't. They're just too much. But yeah, if you want to use their powers, which, you know, I think they were worse than Breath of the Wild's powers in almost every case. I think actually all of them were worse. I think all of the ones in Breath of the Wild were more useful than the ones in this game. Ow. But the way that you have to use them in this game is annoying, because you have to run up to them and they're often off doing their own thing and running away from you. See, let me just have them all out again. Okay, so if I want to use Riju, let's say, and like we're in the middle of a battle, right? Typically she's chasing an enemy down. So I'm literally chasing after her. Like, Riju, please fucking come here. Please come here. I want to use your power. You go up to Riju, you want to try and use your power. Okay, good. I clicked on Riju. But it's also just as easy to click on Tulin or to click on Yunobo, who I fucking hate. It's too easy to click on the wrong person. And they're just almost never doing what you want them to do. Let's see how this works. So they're all fighting, right? Let's say I'm trying to find Riju because I want to use her power. So where is she? Riju. Where the fuck is she? Am I missing something? Oh, she's right here. Okay, so I want to use Riju. I have to go in the middle of battle to grab her. You can't tell me that that's a better system than in the last game where it was just mapped to a button and you could just press a button and use the ability. Sometimes it's worse than others. For instance, I'm just trying to pick shit up and I activate her power. That's just, again, it's just something that's just kind of annoying. It's not like a game breaker, but it's just irritating. And so much of this game, it's like, did you guys play this game before you released it because, again, the idea of having these little sages running around and helping you is a really cool idea. But in practice, it's just a mess. It really is. So let's talk about the depths and the Sky Islands. I personally don't like the depths. I find them pretty annoying to navigate. I understand that the idea is that it's dark and then you can use bright bloom seeds to be able to see where you're going, and then you are supposed to activate the light roots. The problem is that, again, it just feels really tedious because the light roots, they don't really light up a large area. They really light up like a tiny area most of the time. And so getting one doesn't even feel that good because you're still going to be in complete darkness again in like 4 seconds. See, like rock salt. What a terrible prize. I'm going to get rock salt right here. I just got 2 rock salt from this rock, but I had to defeat that enemy right there to get the same exact prize. Are you kidding me? But yeah, I personally, I don't like the idea of having the entire depths be so dark and that there's not really a good way to light up a substantial part of it. Again, you can light up parts of it, but it just feels like there's so many light roots that it just almost feels like it's not worth it because you're lighting up such a tiny part every time you reach one. You're probably not worth my time, huh? No, you're definitely not worth my time. Oh, wait, hang on. I forgot what I was doing in there in the first place. Damn it, I forgot I was looking for that shit. Hang on, I'll go back. It's fine. Overall, I find it annoying to explore in the depths, having to throw the bright bloom seeds every 4 seconds to be able to see. It just feels tedious. Again, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't make me want to explore. And you know, I'll complain about the rocks again. That is just such a tedious mechanic because the rocks, not only do they absolutely kill all of your weapons, but they literally make me not want to explore. I found an area by Lookout Landing, which you probably know what I'm talking about. But that area, you can go and, you know, explore, but there is a lot of rocks in there. And the problem, hopefully this is it. Damn it. The problem is that the rocks take so goddamn long to get through, and you waste so many weapons getting through them that I just left that whole area, even though I would love to explore more in there. But it was just so like I was spending so long just trying to get anywhere. It was just not fun. It just wasn't a fun way to explore. Oh God. Again, like the idea of having rocks there to help kind of add a little bit of challenge or whatever to just, you know, instead of just walking through a cave, that's a good idea. I mean, that's not a bad idea. But again, when you actually are doing it, it's like, did you guys play through this? Did the creators of this game actually play it? Because the rocks thing is just unacceptable. It is a huge waste of resources. It's a huge waste of time. It makes me not want to explore areas that I want to explore because the mechanic is so annoying. Okay, cool. Sky Islands, I think, are okay. I really don't explore the Sky Islands, to be entirely honest with you, because there's not that much to see from what I've seen so far. A lot of them are super, super repetitive, very copy and paste. In my opinion, there should have been a town up there. I was genuinely surprised that there wasn't a town up there, especially when fucking Skyward Sword had a town up there. Skyloft was such a cool town, and part of what I love about Skyward Sword was all of the side quests where you get to help people in that game. And I cannot believe that there's not a fucking town up there. Like, why? Why did you guys not add a town up there? That would have been a perfect spot to add more content and more side quests that would have been actually fun. I will point out, just because I was there recently, there's a Sky Island somewhere that I can't remember. A Sky Island where there's like a lot of mirror puzzles, kind of similar to the Lightning Temple in this game, which by the way was my favorite temple in the game by far. The Lightning Temple in this game was my favorite temple between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. This Sky Island I'm talking about uses similar mirror kind of puzzles as the Lightning Temple does, and it was so fun. It was just such a cool, unique part of the sky, and I really wish there was more that were like that. Like I said, that's the only real fun, unique one that I have seen. Talking about Sky Islands, I didn't mention this before, I don't think, but another similarity to Breath of the Wild is the way that the game starts. So, you know, you have an old man or dead king, ghost, they're both ghosts, they're both old men, talking to you and walking you through how the game works. Essentially, there are 4 shrines, you have to find them, blah blah blah. It's whatever. It's very similar, except it's worse in my opinion. I hate the Great Sky Island, to be honest with you. I was doing a Tears of the Kingdom playthrough on my channel, and then I took a break because I was really annoyed with the game and other various reasons. And when I started again, I started a new file, and the thing that was making me not want to start a new file was having to do the Sky Islands again. I find the Sky Islands super tedious. I still don't even know if I know how to get to the Ascend Shrine, or whichever one was in the cold area. I literally still don't even know the correct way to do that, I'm pretty sure. The last time I did it with this playthrough, it took me so fucking long to figure out how to get there. And that's not fun, in my opinion. I know that I just need to get there, and having to just run around with my tiny ass stamina wheel, just slowly figuring out all of the different ways that don't work, it killed the mood for me. It really did. I would not be surprised at all. Is that a fucking Lionel? Oh, fuck no. Well, I could try it. Okay, let's save. And I'll let the demons out. Ah. Ow. Come on, I was about to land on your back. You would have liked it. Great Sky Island, I would not be surprised if that alone made people not play this game. Because if I wasn't a huge Zelda fan and I wasn't going to play this game either way, I really don't know if I could have gotten past it. Like, I found the Great Sky Island super, super annoying and tedious. I also kind of find issue with Nintendo seemingly targeting speedrunners. It's like they don't even know what made their game good. It's so bizarre to me. Part of what made Breath of the Wild such a major thing was the internet, was YouTubers playing the game and posting about it and doing all types of speed runs and doing all sorts of crazy shit. That was literally what helped make that game what it was. It helped sell copies of that game. It helped Zelda get out into a much bigger market than it typically is in. It wasn't just Zelda players, it wasn't just Nintendo players that were playing Breath of the Wild. It was Xbox players, it was PC players, it was people who would never have picked up a Zelda game before. And part of it, a large part of it, was because of people speedrunning and doing cool shit online and people wanting to watch that and do it themselves. And it just doesn't make sense to me why you would do things that specifically seem like you're targeting speedrunners. Why would you make that whole beginning cutscene area thing with Zelda? Like, I think it's cool the first time, but why would you make that unskippable? And why would you make the Great Sky Island so tedious and annoying with so much backtracking, so many cutscenes? Why would you then make it so you don't even have your paraglider once you're done with the Great Sky Island? It literally just feels like they're targeting the community who partially helped make Breath of the Wild what it was. And that just bothers me. That just feels bad. I don't know. It just feels like they're being spiteful. And it's like, why? Like, why do you hate the people that play your game so much? Onto the story. I think the story was actually really good once I was able to actually play through it. But another thing, again, it's just something where it's like, this just pissed me off. Like, did you guys even play this game? Was the fact that you could completely spoil the entire story for yourself simply by doing the Master Sword quest early. And the thing is, it's not even like it's that weird if you did the Master Sword quest early. Because frankly, a lot of people probably did it early because the Master Sword was found in the same exact place it was found in Breath of the Wild. So of course, since I know everything about this game is the same as Breath of the Wild pretty much, of course when I played this game, I was going to go to the Korok Forest and, try and get the Master Sword because I want the Master Sword. I wanted a freaking sword that wouldn't break every 2 seconds. But the problem is that I did that Master Sword quest early, and it honestly ruined the story for me. If I had seen the story play out as it should have, with, the cutscenes showing Zelda becoming the dragon and then, carrying the Master Sword, and then ending that scene and having the dragon who you've been seeing this entire game just fly by and you're like, holy shit, that's Zelda, that would have been sick. The problem is that I already knew that was Zelda because I already watched the fucking Korok Forest cutscene, which shouldn't have existed. In my opinion, they should have had, you can have the Korok Forest thing, you can have the Great Deku Tree be, infected by gloom or whatever and have the whole Phantom Ganon fight. I really like that. But they shouldn't have had it have anything to do with the Master Sword. Again, it just feels like something that they wanted to copy from Breath of the Wild instead of make different for like literally no reason. And it ruined the story for me. Once I saw the whole story, I was like, holy shit, if I had seen it this way the entire time, that would have been sick. That would have been such an amazing story. But the problem is I didn't see it like that. I saw one of the last cutscenes in the middle of my first playthrough, and it ruined the impact that the story would have otherwise had on me. I have a whole video about this, by the way, about how the story kind of ruined itself and talking about how to tell like linear stories in a non-linear game. It's definitely possible, despite what Breath of the Wild and Zelda creators try and tell you. Other games have done it for a long time. But yeah, if you want to check out that video, I'll put a link in the description. Okay, next thing. And this isn't something that's necessarily specifically about Tears of the Kingdom, but just another reason why I kind of stopped playing this game and got burnt out on it was simply because I prefer the older games. I can't help that. A lot of times people are like, this game is just objectively better, like the open world way, it's just better. And even the freaking Nintendo producers and everybody, they say that and they think that. They think that having unmitigated freedom is just a good thing constantly, and there's no bad parts of it. It's just good. And I disagree with that. Oh, also getting all of the same armor that used to be DLC, but now you just find it in the game. Again, lazy. But yeah, I can't help that. I just prefer the style of the older games. I just prefer that gameplay. So I wanted to mention it, but I also feel like it's not super fair of me to call that necessarily a con, because that really is just, I mean, obviously all of this is just my opinion, but that truly is like a strong thing that's just based on my personal preferences. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That's definitely a big part of why Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are at the lower end of my list of favorite Zelda games, and my Tears of the Kingdom is definitely last. It's just because I prefer the older style of gameplay. Ah, fuck that. No. No, fuck off, dude. No, fuck. Okay, those things are scary as shit, and honestly scarier than Guardians, because they are fucking fast as hell. Anyway, another thing to think about, and another thing that went into me stopping making videos, was that my videos really weren't doing very well. And to be completely fair, I'm a small YouTuber. I did not expect when I started my channel that I would just randomly like make it big. And, you know, I'm doing something so... Did you guys see that? That was sick. But yeah, I didn't expect like, oh shit, like I'm doing something so life-changingly different than what everyone else is doing. Like I'm definitely gonna make it big. Like I did not expect that. But I don't know. I kind of expected that there would at least be like a boost when Tears of the Kingdom came out and when I started making Tears of the Kingdom content, because I just kind of thought like, okay, well that will be popular. And then, you know, people will want to see that. But I didn't really see a boost. And I watch a lot of different Zelda YouTubers, and from what I've heard, nobody really did. For some reason, Tears of the Kingdom videos just aren't doing very well, especially compared to like Breath of the Wild videos and how well they tended to do. It kind of just feels like people don't really want to watch Tears of the Kingdom content. And I think that's really interesting. I wonder kind of why, because I know a lot of people like this game, so I'm not entirely sure why that's happening. Maybe it's just an oversaturation. I don't really know, but that was a little discouraging just to see like not even a little bit of an increase really in views. In fact, like my most viewed content was actually content where I was talking about Tears of the Kingdom and what I wanted to see from the game and all this other stuff before the game came out. After the game came out, I never ever hit the kind of views that like my literally second video on my channel or third video I ever made hit, just by talking about what I wanted from Tears of the Kingdom. It's like the hype of Tears of the Kingdom did better views-wise than actually Tears of the Kingdom content, which makes me wonder. It's just kind of interesting. Again, even like big YouTubers have been kind of talking about this, and it makes me kind of wonder if people just are kind of sick of this game, just tired of it in the same way that I am, because people are kind of burnt out by this game because we already played Breath of the Wild and they just made it so similar that we just kind of feel like there's just not that much there for us to, you know, care that much about anymore. Like it's not new anymore. And that obviously is discouraging. You know, I did a video that I was really, really proud of, and I thought it was like the best video that I had made on my channel. I worked really hard on it and I thought it was really good. And it did so bad. Like even to this day, it has less views than like most of my regular playthrough, like let's play content, which is just weird. And the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about, which I feel like I've touched on, but weapons breaking so easily, it's excessive in my opinion. And what sucks about it even more is that you have to now split your items between selling them. Like if you get, let's say, something that's valuable, let's say I get this, right? So that's 35 fuse power. I could sell it for a decent amount of money if I was trying to have a better house or buy arrows or bombs, because bombs, I can't ever find enough bombs to use them as much as I would like to. You have to decide if you want to sell stuff for rupees, if you want to fuse them for attack power, or if you want to use them to upgrade your armor. The reason why my armor is such ass still, and why this is my best set of armor and like I haven't been able to upgrade, is because I use all of my good horns and things that I get to fuse to make decent weapons. And even when I do that, I feel like they fucking still break so easily. And it really is frustrating because it feels like even when I've put a lot of hours in this game at this point, I still feel like I can't even upgrade my armor because I have to be using those same resources a lot of times to do so many other things that it feels like there's not enough to go around. To get the horns, for instance, you have to kill enemies, right? Well, the problem, again, is that your shit breaks so easily that half the time you sit there and you wonder, is it even worth it? Is it worth me breaking 2 weapons where I already have fused items on there in order to maybe get another item that would be helpful for me to fuse? You know what I mean? It's just not very fun. It doesn't incentivize you to want to play. I don't know how they could have fixed this. I feel like maybe armor should have been strictly a rupees thing where you just had to pay to upgrade rather than use resources, or maybe you had to use resources that you weren't really useful for fusing so that you didn't really have that overlap. I don't really know. I don't know how they could have fixed it, but that part did bother me because I feel like I constantly need better weapons, but then I also feel like I want better armor, and I just don't know how to balance that. And maybe that's just a skill issue. I don't know. Anyway, I've been talking for a long time. I did not expect to talk for that long. Again, I don't want to give the impression that I disliked this game and every single part of it, because that's not true. I just needed to rant a little bit. And now that other YouTubers are coming out and talking about how this game was just like not what they expected and maybe not as good as they wanted it to be and has a lot of issues, I feel a little bit better coming out and having those same opinions and ranting a little bit about it. So again, I don't just feel negatively about this game. I just simply wanted to go over the negative parts for this video and just, again, more informally, as you can tell. So yeah, if you liked this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Have a good one.